So the original design studio was a couple blocks away. It was where Mockingbird Antiques was until recently.
The white building down on Western.
White building, 2-story, adjacent to Will Rogers with, the stripe awnings. And back in the day, it was a full operating design studio.
Yeah.
So there's a showroom and people making
seamstresses in the attic.
Yeah, and bolts of fabric, like rooms full of it,
Right. I remember we would run around there as kids.
Yeah.
And I remember
normalize
the smell.
it though, because we were in it, we grew up in it. Even the hand renderings, I really love to hear people's connection and appreciation for them. And not to say that we don't, but I almost had to understand that the more that people would come and say these renderings are beautiful,
right,
pieces of art, But
they were just so normalized to us.
Yeah. And, we had a show not too long ago at our friend Denise DeLong's studio or gallery in Paseo, and it was the generations of design.
Yeah.
Because, it's really incredible to say we are third generation.
And it was the first time we had renderings up of all generations in one space.
Right. And I remember going out to our grandparents' land and going through the attic and finding like a treasure trove of old renderings that I had no clue existed. We didn't even know were there. And then bringing them back to life, framing them, putting them on the walls.
And it's a good thing because that paper over the years starts to just completely disintegrate. Yep. So now we have those framed.
Yep.
But it's awesome to see. So our father, after he got the photography out of his blood, then realized, the best part is that our mother was an intern for our grandfather before my father and her ever dated.
Because she studied interior design.
Yeah, she has her master's in interior design. Yep. And so she interned for our grandfather, and then at that point our father was just a hippie doing his photography thing.
I think he's on some soul searching.
Yes, he was. Long hair.
And he comes in.
He was kind of doing what we did. He was avoiding the family business.
Yeah.
And so then
walks in one day.
And they fall in love. And my grandfather always said, "Damn it, Cam, you stole my intern." Because then she went off and had 4 kids and stopped working. And
But then that's how we were introduced to the business as well. Because after graduating, you came back for a little bit, and I didn't. I
was a boomerang kid.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. During another interview, I had no clue that you were defiant against joining the family business.
Oh, yeah.
Because you wanted to do your own thing. And
I thought, well, part of it is also that studying interior design, they train you in such a corporate type of way so that you miss the beauty of these smaller firms. And so I came out of college just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to work for some huge architecture firm, and I was just a little pompous. But then I remember our uncle passed away, and that made me realize how I don't know how much time I would have with my dad. And I thought, why would I be missing these opportunities to learn from him and to spend more time with him, and for us to relate on this passion of a career that we both have? So I chose to try to elevate this mom and pop business to a place that felt like, okay, I can get aligned with this. I mean, he didn't have a website. He wanted pigeons to be flying to deliver that a client might be interested in using him.
Yeah.
And
you brought him to the tour you did before I came on.
I tried, and it was hard though, because he is so old school. Yeah. That man, and we've learned to love it because it is just who he is, down to the renderings. You cannot put a computer in front of that man.
And what's incredible too is it was word of mouth, really.
It really was.
And it still is, but like that foundation that our grandfather set and laid really did sustain. I mean, he didn't really need
It's true.
business cards. He didn't need any of that, because he had
The field was a lot less competitive too.
For
so
sure.
I think when I came on board is when it was starting to shift and become more competitive, and it was very evident to me that if you don't step up, you will get left behind.
Yeah. Well, and because, when our grandfather established his business, he was one of the forerunners of Oklahoma City interior design, because there really wasn't a scene yet. And so I think that Dad was a little spoiled coming into that.
I think you're right.
And he's like, oh, they just come to us, which is actually true. I mean, and he wasn't far off. But yeah, getting him a cell phone was really
that was huge. That was huge. We started with a jitterbug. Do you remember the jitterbug cell phones?
I did not.
They had enormous numbers.
And then just a call in and a call out.
They were kind of made for geriatric people.
It's like those remotes you can buy your grandparents now. That have
with the
buttons
huge,
on them.
But it's like, he couldn't do that, but you put him in front of a drafting board, and it's
incredible.
He's Van Gogh.
it's brilliant.
It's incredible. Like,
and he doesn't need, he has the technicalities in his head. He doesn't need a computer to render for him.
And I think that's when we realized we don't want to clutter his brain with technology.
Yeah.
Let's keep it doing what it does best.
Right.
And so Ashford and I tried to pull in some of the technological aspects of design, but let him just sit at the drafting table. And so we really did develop a great
rhythm
engine for a while. Right before COVID hit is when he would sit at that drafting table, spit out these designs. We would be researching the furniture selections to put into the designs, and we were...
You throw it down.
Yeah, we would have all these papers just floating down, because Cam would be like, oh, I need a sofa.
Yeah.
Here comes a sofa.
And what's brilliant about what he could do is it's essentially he'd put what you would imagine permanent, markers, whatever but he's able to erase it.
He developed a system of editing.
Exactly. And it's like, you can do that on the computer easy, but it was incredible to see him do, you would, you'd present it to the client. It's a nice roadmap for a visual. But if we go with the different chair that he already had rendered in, the next day, it's as if it was there,
That was impressive.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And we speak of it in past tense because he's now retired.
Yeah.
And so we're in the process of really accepting that, because he's also been talking about retiring since the second I came on board. But I think he's finally there.
Yeah.
And so Ashford and I are in this place of feeling confident to carry the torch, but also kind of mourning the loss of having him in the studio every day.
Just that presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, what was incredible too is when, not to say he had a ton of free time, but when we weren't working on a rendering or we completed them, he'd just sit there and just create out of his imagination, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, the best is when he was creating things
no project.
Yeah, for no client.
Yeah, it was.
He would just fill his time if you.
Just
it was amazing.
These modern glass pyramid homes, just incredible.
And there were times that we had to rein him in and say, you can't pave the driveway in gold. It's just not going to work.
But what's also incredible is, I'll always think about that project that you guys were working in Texas, and there was that beautiful cantilevered circular staircase.
Yeah.
And he presented it, he drew it. He went to the general contractor and he was like, there's no way to do this. And he's like, if I drew it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And they did it, and it's incredible.
Yeah, that was, he could get very stubborn at the perfect moment, because another way that he just thought, if you can't give me a good reason that it can't be done, then I'm not going to give up on it. And I just think that his lack of limitations, because I do believe sometimes in these programs for design, the professors end up just making students so afraid of what could go wrong. He didn't have that fear. So it was just whatever comes out of his brain will end up coming to fruition.
Yep.
And he made sure of it. It was frustrating at times, though, because
Sounds like he's maintained that child mindset.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Right?
Absolutely.
Don't tell me it can't be done. I just drew it.
Exactly.
And he's right.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Which is incredible. But yeah, some of those renderings, you know, they're not only pieces of art, but we also, with some of them, like to give them to the client as a gift to frame
Great
and,
gift.
and see, you know, and some of them we'll put it in the room that is designed, you know, and you know, and what's incredible too is out of those renderings you compare it to the room and it's identical.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that he has been brilliant in is down to the inch of a piece of custom crown molding.
Exactly.
You know, like we were working with a client in Heritage Hills, one of my favorite recent projects, and there was an addition to their home. I think it was from the 80s. There was a fire of some sort, and they just did an 80s add-on, you know. So we walked in and we were like, okay.
This needs to go.
Yeah. But from where it started to where it ended, not only did we have to have a client that was patient, it was during COVID, which was actually a lot easier, and just the craftsmanship that you don't see anymore, and the intricacies of these millwork corners, you know, and we did some built-ins that just cut around every detail is thought out, you know, which I think it's masterful.
He would come in the mornings. You could tell he was maybe laying in bed and rolled over and scribbled some detail. And he'd come in the mornings with just like little scribbled details that we'd have to translate.
Decipher.
But it's really, I mean, I think that it's taken me years to get to a place where I understand it and I feel confident in carrying on these abilities. But it took years, because right when I got into the industry, I just remember thinking the way that he would communicate these details and how I could picture him picturing it in his head, or you just watch him and you're just seeing his brain spinning. I thought there's absolutely no way that I'm ever going to be able to do what he does. And I think that just soaking it up over years, it becomes second nature. You don't even realize you're doing it.
Right.